You're a former federal prosecutor and state's attorney in Maryland. The suspect had reportedly confessed to the crime. So what comes next, and do you see any hurdles for prosecutors here?
Well, I won't say that there are no hurdles for prosecutors, but this lines up as an extremely strong case. You've got a confession that's entirely supported by the circumstantial evidence that's been collected so far, to the best of my knowledge. And the only defense I could see them going with would be some sort of mental incapacitation, but that's undermined because it looks that he clearly planned this out in advance. And confessed afterwards, so that it's clear that he knew that what he had done was wrong. And unless some new information comes out, it looks like it's pretty clear that that he was aware of the impact of what he was doing, and that it was politically motivated, which would support the types of charges that might go to terrorism or other types of enhancement. So I think it's a very strong murder case, and I'm expecting the government to seek the death penalty here, because it's multiple murders for politically motivated reasons.
So much to discuss. So I do want to pivot now to the continuing escalation between the Trump administration and Harvard University. We just were reporting in our last block about how DHS is now revoking Harvard's ability to enroll international students. Is this action legal?
No, I think it's clearly unconstitutional. I think it's clearly retaliatory. This is sort of step two in the Trump administration's effort to force Harvard to bend the knee in some way or another. And the argument this is about, protecting Jewish students on campus, I think is belied by the expansive attack that they're taking, sort of preventing any of these international students from attending Harvard would address the concern that they're saying is motivating their actions. And Secretary Noem's statement, I think, clearly circumvents any sort of argument that, or undermines any kind of argument that there's some sort of rational basis for this other than retaliatory action. So it's a significant economic impact for Harvard, since a quarter of the students are international students, and many of them pay, so to speak, full load to go. So I think the effort to get a temporary restraining order will be significant. And apparently graduation's right around the corner. So forcing these students to leave so they can't attend their own graduations, I think is ridiculous. It just doesn't make any sense.
It sounds cruel, and there are broader impacts. Other countries would gladly welcome these students and their brain power and their talent. We're already seeing outreach from Hong Kong's University of Technology and Science, for example, saying that the university will provide unconditional offers, streamlined admission procedures, and academic support to facilitate a seamless transition for interested students. Does that offer show just how valuable these students are and the potential loss for the U.S.?
I think so. And this connects up with other things that the Trump administration has done to essentially force talent out of the United States and potentially science and tech talent at a time when we need it here the most. I mean, we're competing with China, especially with respect to major issues like developments of AI, quantum computing, cybersecurity. All of that, a lot of the talent that comes into the United States focuses on science and technology, innovation and research. Forcing them out of the country makes no sense. And it also undermines the soft power that we have as generally speaking, as the United States, but Harvard in particular has had decades of international students coming here, getting an education, going back to their countries, and establishing relationships that are useful to the United States in foreign policy and international trade and the like. So it's damaging to the country in multiple respects, and certainly isn't it, damaging to Harvard if this is allowed to go through.
Meantime, there are some new developments in the fallout from President Trump's Oval Office showdown with South Africa's president this week. Apparently, it turns out some video and images that were shown in that meeting weren't what the president said they were, according to Reuters. They're reporting that the president showed a screenshot of Reuters video taken in the Democratic Republic of Congo as part of what he falsely presented as evidence of mass killings of white South Africans. There was also some video of white crosses that the president misrepresented. And our Yamiche Alcindor asked the White House press secretary about that specifically. Watch.
What's not true, Yamiche? It's not true. The video was showing a burial site. It is unsubstantiated that that's the case.
No, it is true that that video showed the crosses that represent.
Which is what the president claimed.
The video showed images of crosses in South Africa about white farmers who have been killed and politically persecuted because of the color of their skin.
The president
and those
claimed
crosses
that
are
it was showing
representing their
burial
lives. Those crosses are representing their lives.
Who at the
no,
White
it did
House
show that. It
who
showed
at the-
white crosses representing people who have perished because of
White
racial
House
persecution.
verifies the videos that the president shows, and what protocols are in place when there's unsubstantiated information being put out for the world and world leaders to
Yamiche,
show?
what's unsubstantiated about the video? The video shows crosses that represent the dead bodies of people who were racially persecuted by their government. In fact, the Associated Press, of all places, has a picture of that very monument, and the caption from the Associated Press is, "Each cross marks a white farmer who has been killed in a farm murder." So it is substantiated, not just by that.
Yeah, the president said it was a burial site. That was what we were talking about there. Congressman, your thoughts about how this level of misinformation in the Oval Office may impact America's credibility around the globe?
Well, sadly, it's not surprising that the Trump administration is misrepresenting facts and making these kind of wild claims. But nobody should be surprised about this. I mean, we recall the claims that were made during the campaign about, a particular group of immigrants that were eating dogs and stuff like that. And they never backed away from that, never corrected it. And you could see in this press conference, they're going to continue along that path. But I appreciate the fact that the media, I know back in the day, it was always the media would present one side and the other. But I think it's important for the media now to make clear when they're lying, when they're giving false information, because it's important for the public to know that these kinds of claims are unsubstantiated. And, the stuff about white genocide in South Africa has never been sustained anyway, which I guess is why they had to go fabricate evidence. But they do this across the board. They're doing it in the deportation cases as well. And I think we just have to hold them accountable and let the public know that it's false and they're lying and they're trying to mislead you intentionally.
We follow the facts no matter where they lead. You mentioned deportation cases. Quickly before I let you go, I know you're headed to El Salvador this afternoon in hopes to speak with one of your constituents, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who's been, of course, held by authorities there since mid-March at the direction of the Trump administration. Walk us through what you're hoping to learn from this trip, and have you been able to confirm that you'll actually be able to visit with Mr. Abrego Garcia?
Well, I don't know what's going to happen when I get down there, but, we're going to go and try and make things move forward one way or the other. I do want to see him and do sort of a wellness check, so to speak. But the larger point, I think, is the Trump administration could bring him back, with the stroke of a pen or a single phone call. And the Supreme Court has ordered them to do it. The lower courts have ordered them to do it, and they're refusing to do it. They're dragging their feet on it, I think, in part because they've been lying about the facts around his case. And the Venezuelans who are being held down there in El Salvador as well. The Cato Institute, no less, put out a report saying that there are about 50 of them that are being held there who were in the United States illegally, so they were deported illegally. They committed no crimes in the United States, El Salvador, or Venezuela, yet they're still being held in that El Salvadorian gulag of a prison down there. So, we have to keep the pressure on the Trump administration. They can correct this when they want to, and we need them to comply with the court orders for basic constitutional and separation of powers reasons.
Congressman Glenn Ivey, thank you for joining us. We appreciate your time today.